You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
What a beautiful day for horses in the morning.
You are listening to the #1 horse podcast in the world. Here is your entertaining look at the horse world and the people in it.
I'm Glenn the Geek from Ocala, Florida, and you're listening to Horses in the Morning on the Horse Radio Network for February the 10th, 2026, episode 3881. Good morning, Horse World. Well, Karen is out today with some things she needs to get taken care of, so I thought I'd bring you an episode of her past tips. I have compiled 3 from you from episodes in the past. We're going to talk about keeping motivated during the winter, your horse's vital signs, and calculating ride times and speed. I tried to get a variety there so that everybody could get a little something out of today's episode. She'll be back next month with a brand new episode of the Endurance Rider Podcast. So today, let's get started with keeping motivated during the winter. I thought that was appropriate considering the kind of winter that we're having.
I've been asked, how do you keep motivated during the winter when it's dark, cold, wet, muddy, frozen, there's snow piling up?
And in the Northeast this weekend, it's supposed to be minus 40 wind chills.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. See, then I would just say, enjoy your break, horse, and wave out the window.
Go in and do your rowing and your treadmill and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that is a good point, though. That is a good time to work on you.
Well, sure it is.
Inside.
And, right. But, within reason, you don't want to just leave your horse all winter long and not do anything.
But I meant in those extreme conditions.
Yes, in the extreme conditions.
Yeah, it's probably better to work on you than sit there and eat, ring dings.
Most of those people will be getting some exercise breaking up the ice on the water.
That's true,
drops.
and shoveling. So that's
shoveling.
True,
So. Yeah, they say shoveling.
I laugh because I live in Florida, so there's that.
I know you can. But shoveling's a real intense exercise. So
one I'm glad I don't have to do anymore.
I don't blame you one bit there.
All right, so go ahead.
So we just had some pretty good weather up here. We're like sitting at 184% of normal snowpack in the Sierras right now. So we got, all the highways were closed. Power outages everywhere, a lot of stuff going on. So I understand for a lot of people, it's tough when you have all these goals. You've got rides coming up you want to plan for, or you're working on a new horse like I am. So I thought I'd put together just some things to talk about that you can do to prepare your horse a little bit better for the sport of endurance while you might be experiencing some weather conditions that are, maybe not as severe as Glenn mentioned, but still, bad enough so that you're not able to maybe get your trailer out and trailer or to go ride somewhere where the footing is safe right now. So the first one I've got is to practice, and of course you can't do this if your trailer's buried in snow, but to practice your overnight containment system with your horse. And, if you can do that, great, whether it's like a trailer tie or portable corrals, just start out, put your horse in it while you're doing your chores or feeding and stuff, and getting the horse, again, like I said, getting them more familiar with what they're going to experience on an actual endurance ride. They will become a lot more comfortable. Not everything will be new for them when they do end up finally getting to go to an event. So that said, practice putting your blankets on and off, because somehow it's different if you're going out and doing it in the dark, or it's high winds and it takes 2 people, because it's like flying a kite to try to get a blanket on your horse. And because those are things that if you go to endurance rides long enough, you will experience them, getting by the time you finish and go vet, get your horse cleaned up in the winter, it's going to probably be getting dark or already dark. It might be windy. So you want your horse getting used to all those things. So just practice that. Like I've got my horses where now I can go out in the dark in the middle of a storm and throw a blanket on them while they're loose. So then I don't have to go, grab a halter and a lead rope and bring them in and, go through that. So practice those kinds of things. Taking your horse for walks, especially if you live near or in a neighborhood where there's good dry, roads or pavement to go out on. Take them out for a walk, warm them up good, cool them down good. It's good for you, good for your horse. I've been practicing doing trot out and backs with my horse. So he's learning how to trot out, stop, turn around, trot back, stuff like that, which is always good. And now, of course, if you are stuck inside, spend some time fine-tuning all your tack adjustments. Like if you have biothane tack, get it adjusted to fit really nice on your horse. You could trim off the excess material so you don't have a bunch of extra straps around your horse's head and face and breast collar flapping, clean everything up, inspect everything, check for any signs of wear and tear, cracks in any of the metal, make sure all your straps are attached securely, check your stirrups for signs of fatigue and wear. Just go over everything because, the winter is the perfect time to be ordering replacements and new items. Let's see here. Work on your groundwork, manners, stuff like that. You might have a spot where you can lunge your horse safely if the footing is good. I mostly haven't because we got a lot of rain and then it snowed and froze down to like single digits and in the teens. So
you got a nice layer of ice underneath that snow.
Yes, yeah. It was an ice skating rink.
Oh, good.
So
yeah. That's always fun too.
Yes,
yeah.
I let the horses learn how to ice skate on their own. I did try getting in the way. So you have that. Once things start to dry out, or if you're in a wetter, warmer climate, keep an eye out for scratches because that is something that can I have seen sideline many, many endurance horses. A lot of times they'll start to develop scratches at home on their own and then it spreads and then it becomes really bad. It'll crawl all the way up your horse's leg and it can be really painful for them and it can take you out for, part of a season. So you want to keep an eye on that. Check underneath if your horse is standing in ankle deep or deeper mud, you want to keep an eye on that and start with the pre-treatments or preventatives or actual treatments if you need to keep up with that so that once everything does start to get nice again, you can hop on and go ride and not have to worry about anything like that.
I want to mention that if you search scratches on horseradionetwork.com, just search scratches, you'll find we've done many episodes on what you can do for that. So,
yes, exactly. And also, if your horse is wearing a blanket for very long, I like to rotate my blankets to a different style or type every week so that it eliminates or reduces the chance of rubs in certain spots. And
by the way, that advice is not horse husband approved because it costs a lot more money.
Well, if you have two horses, just switch them back and forth. How's that?
All right. I'll buy that one.
Okay. That'll work. So, yeah. And you want to also keep an eye on underneath your horse. You want to keep checking your horse's body condition underneath the blankets. If they're wearing a blanket for 2 or 3 weeks at a time, you want to keep a close eye, even if you just feel underneath and make sure that your horse is maintaining good weight. And you want to keep everything clean. My horses they've all been excellent at lying down and rolling and somehow managing to still get mud all the way up the inside of their back legs with a blanket on.
Right.
So yeah, you want to make sure they stay clean. So again, you don't end up getting ready to go ride and now they've got a bunch of this scurfing and flaking and dandruff around their girth and armpits and stuff. So you want to, keep an eye on all those little things, just looking forward to the day where, the snow's going to go away. It's not going to be 20 degrees when you get up and you'll be able to go out and ride and have a good time.
All right. One more. We have time for one more.
One more. Okay. One of the other things I learned this when I was riding the Mustang a couple years ago. He had been desensitized to like everything, in an arena. They had gotten him used to tarps, umbrellas, just you name it. Well, we were out just riding out to the trail and here comes this little kid on the corner. And he had an umbrella, and the kid was probably 3 or 4 years old, and the umbrella was waist high. And he came running towards us with the umbrella. Well, so then that's when I realized, when the horse knows what it is, and, it's different. So what I've incorporated.
I think my pony would have been gone.
Yeah, we backed up the fastest I've ever backed up. In fact, I don't think I've ever gone forward that fast on a horse.
Well, first of all, having a 3-year-old run around with an umbrella is not something you think about using as a desensitization thing a lot. So
it's not. So, but I've also learned when I've gone out in the dark in the winter and the wind is blowing and it's raining and I've got the umbrella. And the horses see me, and all they see is the umbrella because I've got it down at an angle to block the snow or the rain. And they're like gone, like you said. And so now I'm practicing all the time, going out, in the dark, in the daylight, with an umbrella, with a headlamp, with my dogs loose with me. So these are all things, believe it or not, if you go, like I said, if you go to enough endurance rides, your horse will experience all of this stuff eventually, because everything happens at an endurance ride. Stuff.
Do you have a herd of deer that you keep around just to help them with that little problem?
I wish I did. Yes, but I do have, actually, I got ostriches in the neighborhood. I've got lots of goats, herds of goats. There's also, you just do what you can do. But see, that's the whole thing with an endurance horse brain. Once they see enough stuff, one new thing it's like, oh, that's just something else that's new.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's not as big of a deal, so yeah. And,
all right, very good. Well, all of those were great. And next up, we hear from Kristen from the Distance Depot. So we have Kristen joining us from Distance Depot, and today we're going to talk about something that you all are going to be needing this spring, rain gear.
Exactly. In fact, California probably needs it right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, good morning, Kristen. We have Kristen joining us from the Distance Depot this morning to tell us we're going to talk about rain gear for our horses and riders.
Yes. And good morning to everyone. I think we might have touched on this a little bit here not too long ago, but we do have a lot of rain gear and waterproof equipment. We have a durable water repellent too. So if some of your equipment is getting older, it's an aerosol spray that you can do about once a year to revive
Does that stuff really work?
I don't know. I've used it on boots before. I've not used it on a blanket.
Okay.
And it helped my boots for sure.
All right.
So, I mean, they say to do it about once a year. And, I think some of the products too it depends on the original waterproof ability of them.
Mm-hmm.
The water resistant stuff, you're not going to get too much out of, but you should get pretty good life out of it if you use it on your waterproof equipment that really is waterproof. But we offer the Muddy Creek long raincoats and the Muddy Creek short raincoats. The long one is super big. It is designed to cover the entire rump of your horse, your saddle, your legs, and everything. So it's not a form-fitting jacket that you wear to town. This is a big waterproof jacket to cover everything. So if you're one of those that hates to get wet, that would be the raincoat, but they are big.
Well, they look like you should be riding on the range with that.
Exactly. Yeah, they're more like a duster. Yeah. So, but they do the trick if you're not flying along. If you're flying along, I'm going to recommend something like the Packaroo Duster. It has leg straps, so it will stay secure. Vents in the back to go over your saddle too, and allow for a nice fit while you are riding. Waterproof, and it actually folds up into a backpack, which is kind of cool. So it's nice to store it that way, or you can carry it if you're going out and it's going to be raining, or your crew can carry it easily, and it just folds into itself. It's so crazy, but it's a pretty cool thing. And the short raincoats, we just about sold out of those at convention. They have reflect properties on them, so good for night riding, mm-hmm. and also to keep.
And that was Muddy Creek also, right?
Muddy Creek, yep. Yeah. Yep. And we have a packable poncho too, but it's more of that waxy, old style poncho. So, and again, very big. I really like the Packaroo Duster for, our endurance riders and trail riders that are doing the timed events. And then for horses, we have a full WeatherBeeta rain sheet cooler. So it's full head to toe coverage, which is really nice at the holds if it's pouring rain, to try and keep your horse dry and maybe even your saddle.
I like the word try.
Try. I know it. We all know how difficult that is when it's raining.
once it rains enough, that's it. You're going to get wet.
Everything is soaked, your butt.
You just mitigate it the best you can.
Exactly. But we do have waterproof turnout sheets as well. The cooler really is more just like a cover up, whereas the waterproof sheets and blankets, of course, that many of you already have, they're, designed to be worn at the trailer or in the paddock where they will buckle up securely. So lots of good stuff there. We also have boots. We have the Ariat H2O waterproof boots, the Dublin Pinnacle, which is a tall boot. Those are waterproof as well. And then we're really excited. Finally, we've been waiting for a year for Carrots to release their Trailblazer. It's a lace-up boot, and we've heard through the grapevine that these will be arriving within the next couple of weeks. So we will have those live as well, and they're a waterproof boot too. And the nice thing about these, they have a great heel and also really good traction for, trotting out. And because I know some people think I wore the terrains, and they can get really slippery on the grass and, if you're running up and down hills. So we're excited about this Carrots boot because it has a bigger, thicker tread to keep you a little more secure in the stirrup. So yeah, some really good things.
And what about rump rugs?
Rump rugs, we do have a rump rug too. We used to have a waterproof one, but that one unfortunately has been discontinued. But the Cashel rump rug is water resistant, so it will keep, that hind end dry, until it's so darn soaking that nothing's staying dry. But it also has nice polar fleece on the underside against the horse, so really nice rump rug to keep those hind end muscles warm.
Okay, and how would somebody get in touch with you if they want to order some of this?
Well, they can call us toll free, 866-863-2349, or visit us at www.thedistancedepot.com.
Well, your horse's vital signs are something that everybody should keep track of, but especially an endurance rider. And here, Karen has some tips on that. Checking things on your horse, the vital signs, the important thing. Now, again, as I said earlier, this applies to any horse. This is not just endurance horses.
Exactly. And it's good to know this, and I got a reminder, it's been about a month now, that the neighbor's grandkids were tossing apples over to my horses. And I didn't really realize it because it was in the back corner and I can't see from the house, but I did look on my barn camera and I could see the apples all over the ground inside my paddocks going, how did those get there? Well, I caught the kids doing it. Well, it caused one of the horses to get some runny poops because the kids were trying to lure the horses over, right?
You eat a lot of sugar, that happens.
Too many apples for anybody is going to cause a little bit of a disruption. So that's when I realized, I really need to get more familiar with these new horses. So I got out my index cards, which I've always kept in the barn, and I write down periodically all the stuff that I need to know so I know what their vitals are at rest, which is really important. So the things that are important to check is you want to be able to check your horse's heart rate, which typically should be at rest between 28 and 44 beats per minute, but you want to get familiar with that so you know what is normal, so that when something isn't normal, and then you can, take steps to remedy that. You want to check respiration, which is usually 10 to 24 breaths per minute, but get familiar with how your horse is breathing. Check the temperature, which should be between 99 and 101.5. But get familiar, like I said, because some horses, they might be at either end of that. And then if they get just a little bit elevated, then to keep an eye on them. Gut sounds are a good thing to learn how to check using a stethoscope and to check all four quadrants. And if you're not sure how to do this and don't have anybody that you can ask, you can go to the AERC YouTube channel and look up AERC Education Committee has put out several videos, and they have videos showing how to do a lot of that stuff and how it's done during a vet check on an endurance ride, because the ride vets will check all four quadrants on your horse during the ride. You want to be able to check your horse's skin tinting and you want the skin. When you check the skin on the point of the shoulder, you grab it and you pinch it and you pull it out, and you want it to snap back and have some elasticity to it, so it snaps back within 1 to 3 seconds. But again, get familiar with that, so that if it's going back real slow, that could indicate your horse is dehydrated. And the same for checking gums. You lift up your horse's lip and you press your thumb against your horse's gums, and you want to see the skin color come right back to pink fairly fast. So basically, those are most of the important things, but you just want to go over your whole horse, get them familiar with you checking and touching and handling them all over, so that if they need a vet to do it, or you go to an endurance ride and the vet does a vet check to vet you in during the ride, your horse needs to know how to be handled and accept having their gums and skin tinting and the stethoscope placed on him. The next step that I'm going to be doing with my new horses is I'm going to be working on teaching them how to trot out and back, because that's also an important thing that'll help tell you if there's, you can do a CRI, which we've talked about on the show, where you check your heart rate initially and then you trot out and back and check it again. And that will tell you if the horse is stressed, if the heart rate goes back up, or if it comes right back down to where it was or lower. So those are all, really good things to learn to check. Also, kind of pay attention to how your horse is, how the manure looks. That's how I finally figured out that those kids were tossing apples into my horses. When I picked up manure that morning, it was more like a cow pie. And so I knew, well, oh shoot, which horse did this? So then I was following the horses around, trying to wait for the next one to poop to see if I could figure out which one, had something going on. And not only did he have the runny poops, but his temperature was about 1.5 degrees higher than normal.
So did you have a word with the naughty children?
I did. And in fact, that's when I actually invited them to come over. And because, they're just kids.
Yeah,
and,
they don't know
they don't. And they had a lot of fruit on their side of the fence, and they just wanted to see the horses. So I just had them all over, and there were 3 of them, and I gave them all a brush and got the horses out, and I got some free grooming out of it, and they got an education.
Well, that's a good way to handle it rather than just yelling at them.
Well, yeah.
I mean, that was the better way to handle it. Well done. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, cool. Anything else?
No, I think we covered it. Those were all the important things. And like I said, AARC has a good education channel on YouTube where you can go and look up a lot of the videos that explain and show how to do some of these things.
Well, you got the vital signs down. Now it's time to figure out how to calculate ride times and speed. And Karen had some tips on how to do that as well.
Kind of what I wanted to cover this time is calculating your ride time and speed. And there's a difference between your average speed versus your moving speed. So let me just explain the difference. When you're moving, that's the speed your horse is trotting, whether they say, let's just try to keep the numbers sort of clean and easy for the math. You say your horse is trotting 8 miles an hour, but it walks 4 miles an hour. So you need to be able to calculate what your average speed is going to be so that you can figure out what your speed overall needs to be in order to finish an endurance ride in time. So like if you're doing a 25 miler, you have 6 hours. If you're doing a 50, you have 12 hours. So what you need to do is you need to subtract your hold times out of the total ride times. So let's just, like I said, make it kind of simple. If you're doing a 25, let's say there's 1 hour of hold, that leaves you 5 hours of ride time. So if you divide that by 25 miles, that means you need to average 5 miles an hour. So that's important to know the difference so that you know and you're aware of what happens every time your horse stops to pee or drink, or you open a gate, or you get off to lead in or out of a check, or you're late leaving your hold time. That eats into your average moving time. So that's why it's important to know what your average time is, as well as what your horse is traveling speed is at different gaits. Because if you end up walking more often than you're trotting, your average may drop below that 5 miles an hour that you need in order to finish that 25.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, you can, one other way to look at it is if you're averaging, say, 1 mile in 15 minutes, that's 4 miles an hour. So that means you're not going to make it in time, whether it's a 25 or a 50. So then, you can try to speed that up. Let's just say you try to do a mile in 7 or 8 minutes, then that makes it average out a little bit better so that you're going to keep up that 5 or 6 or 6.5 mile pace, which is what you normally need to do in order to finish at 25 or 50 in time. And then that way you're not racing the clock and getting behind. You're aware of the fact that, you need to keep up, a certain amount of average speed going. So, a lot of people, I think, get behind, or sometimes they may be going too fast because they think they need to trot the whole way, or they need to keep up an 8 or 10 mile an hour trot the whole way. And you don't. You just need to be able to calculate out, okay, so my horse is trotting between 8 and 10 miles an hour, but he's only walking at, say, 4 miles an hour. What is my average? And so that's something to kind of focus and think about when you're out on your training and conditioning rides. What am I averaging, overall, once you calculate in the amount of time you're spending every time your horse pees or drinks, or you need to get off and take a break for something.
It's not like football where we stop the clock.
Right. Exactly. You're on the clock. And in fact, we're going to be talking about that shortly, about Kyla and her pony in a race against time.
So
getting through Tevis.
So what do you use equipment wise? Do you use a special watch? Do you use what do you use?
Well, GPSs are always popular. There's various handheld or wrist models, but there's also a lot of apps on your phone that you can use that will help you out with that sort of thing, like Ride with GPS, GeoTracker,
I can tell.
Strava.
You still use Ride with GPS, right? Because we're connected on there, so I see your.
Yeah.
And I like Ride with GPS just for, you can use that whether you're walking or riding your bike or whatever,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that one works good, actually. There's a lot of bicyclists that use that.
Yeah, I used to like Endomondo, but they did away with it because it would verbally tell me how many minutes it just took me to do my last mile.
Oh.
So I'm like, it took me, 12 or 13 minutes to do that last mile. I need to speed that up a little bit.
Now, will Ride with GPS do a verbal?
It does verbals if you have the premium version.
Gotcha.
It will do more. It has more features then. And, but, a lot of times if you're riding the same type of terrain, you kind of get an idea of how far a mile is, and then you can just sort of look at your watch. You don't really need to be using any fancy gadgets or anything like that if you don't want to.
Well, thanks again for joining us today. We appreciate you stopping by. As I said, Karen should be back next month. And if you want to catch all the past episodes of the Endurance Show, you can head to Endurance Rider on any podcast player. Just search for Endurance Rider. And of course, you can still find them on the Horses in the Morning podcast feed. We'll talk to you all next month. Safe riding, everybody.